Awesome book for our ROI here. Read, organize, and implement. We've got Dichotomy of Leadership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. Awesome book. Really talking about two main things, as you can see, because of the word dichotomy. We're talking about disciplined leadership in your life, even organization of your life, and then also expansive openness, meaning being able to think outside the box, being able to be flexible. And so what an awesome book, several great chapters. The highlight from it, however, is a situation I'll tell you about where these two great Navy SEAL Special Forces commanders, Jocko and Leif, were commanding a platoon, and they were deployed overseas. And what happened was, it was very traditional for these guys to have these sick, awesome, cool patches on their uniform that were talking about warfare and talking about all these violent things. However, Jocko noticed that this was starting to create a separation between these special forces units, the Navy SEALs that Jocko and Leif were commanding, and their conventional warfare brethren, which were the Marines and the Army soldiers. So this was not creating a cohesive, cooperative group that was able to move forward towards the mission and the battle. This was actually separating them. So Jocko, being the commander in charge, told Leif, hey, I don't want any of these guys wearing patches anymore. None of those offensive patches. And Leif was super bummed because he knew that his SEAL guys, all of his team, loved wearing the patches. It made them feel good. They were ready for battle, helped them feel as a group together as the SEALs. But he also understood Jocko's meaning that this was creating a separation between the conventional warfare teams, which was the Marines and the Navy and the Army soldiers, right? So what Leif did later in the chapter was he actually designed secretly a separate patch. And that patch was no longer offensive. It was very, very cool, and it had to do with a lot of the SEAL team, the way they feel about warfare and about being together and about being brothers, but it was no longer offensive towards the other groups. So what he would do was secretly, every time they would jump into battle, he would call the guys on the radio and say, patches on. And the guys would take those new patches, throw them on, and go in for the fight. But Jocko didn't know about it. Now, Jocko, remember, is the higher commander in charge. He's supposed to be keeping discipline and focus and adhering to the rules. And he set that rule, no patches. Well, later in the chapter, he hears on the radio, patches on. And later, he notices one of the patches. So what does he do as the leader? He doesn't say anything. He knows that the patches were done in a more consistent way with what he was meaning in the first place. He knows that by being flexible and open to his other commander, which is Leif, and letting him allow the team to wear non-offensive patches, he's doing the right thing. So he's taken a step back from this one part of his leadership role, which is discipline, focus, adhering to the rules, and he's moving to this other part, which is being flexible, open, expansive, holistic, right? So here you can see the dichotomy of leadership, right? And so this was a big takeaway for me, because in my life, I had just experienced a similar situation. However, in a different way. I had been at a business lunch, and I was around the table with a bunch of guys, and we were talking about some really important subjects. And one of them started swearing. He started using offensive language. And it's not a huge deal. We're all adults. But I noticed that somebody at the table was a little taken aback. And it wasn't adhering to kind of like this cohesive group mentality where we're trying to move forward with these decisions, right? And so I didn't say anything to him because we're not that close, and it wasn't really important for the situation for me at that moment to say anything about it. But in my life, I remembered back to 3 years ago when I made a clear distinction between when I was around people, like even my girlfriend or family members or a business meeting, I cut the offensive language completely out of my life. No more swearing, no more cussing, nothing. And it's completely changed. It's changed everything for me. In my martial arts schools that I own and teach at, there's no swear words allowed at all. I've been all over the world training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, MMA, all kinds of stuff. And I noticed that in a lot of schools, they allow offensive language. They allow swearing and cussing, all this stuff, and it changes the environment. So for me, it's just been an incredible experience, and I actually have a funny story about that as well. Jocko, he's an awesome comedian. Maybe some of you guys have watched his stuff, his Netflix special. He came in for some private classes, and I remember Joe saying to me on the second class, he said, "Professor, is it true I can't swear in here at all?" And I said, "Yeah, Joe, when we walk in the door and we start our class, we don't swear at all inside the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Academy." And he goes, "Professor Erik, I love this place." And I was dying laughing. I said, what do you mean? And he said, "Man, for me to be able to go somewhere where I'm not allowed to swear at all, just kind of feels spiritual to me." And I said, well, that's the feeling that you want, right? And so I think for you guys can kind of take this lesson from the book, from Jocko and them about the patches, and then maybe from myself and the situation that I'm telling you about with Jocko, and you can really implement, right? So that's what we call ROI. I is for implement. So let's try to implement in your life. Maybe take 30 days right now. Take 30 days, and whenever you're around a family member or a friend, you're in a business meeting, cut the offensive language completely out. No swearing, no cussing, no nothing. And see what type of turn that makes for you in the next 30 days.